For this recipe, you need 1 pound of tomatillos, which are peeled and washed. You need 4 cups of water. You need 2 cups of chile de árbol. And you would need 1 large clove of a garlic. You will need 1/4 to 1/3 cup of white vinegar and some salt. Next step is to get the tomatillos in boiling water. Here it's starting to boil. Now the tomatillos will turn from a dark green to a lighter opaque shade of green. These are the tomatillos at 10 minutes. In the meantime, we could take the 2 cups of the chile de árbol. We could rinse them in water. And we'll continue to let the tomatillos boil for another 5 minutes. So here are the tomatillos at 15 minutes. I think they look pretty good. So we could go ahead and start placing the tomatillos in a bowl. And we would save the water for our next step. Now we leave the tomatillos to cool down for about 10 minutes. In the meantime, we got the 2 cups of the chile de árbol in a blender, and we're gonna blend it until it purees. I'm gonna put this on high. Now we have the chile de árbol completely minced and pureed. And now the tomatillos have been chilling for 10 minutes about. Next step is we're gonna add the 2 cups of the water that the tomatillos were boiling in. We're gonna add that in the blender. I've added all the ingredients together. We have the minced chile de árbol, which is the 2 cups. I added 1/3 cup of the white vinegar. I added the 2 cups of the water that was boiling with the tomatillos. I added the 1 clove of the garlic, and I added the chilled tomatillos. And we're gonna go ahead and blend it in the highest setting so it could mince. And this is the finished salsa. And you could actually store this salsa for about 2 months if you place it in a glass jar. Place it in the refrigerator and you'll have some great salsa for about 2 to 3 months. Enjoy!
Welcome to Palm View's Mexican Kitchen. I'm Noemi and I'm here to share my very simple recipe for pico de gallo. So here's some of the ingredients. Of course, we start with avocados. I'm using 2 medium ones. We also have tomatoes and purple onion. I like to use purple onion because it gives it a special flavor. This ingredient is optional. This is jalapeno pepper, fresh. You can also leave that out or switch it out for serrano pepper. There's also some lime and, of course, the cilantro. And of course, salt. Okay, so the first step is of course dicing up your ingredients. The first one I usually like to do is the tomato. And so we'll choose one of the best tomatoes and we'll just go ahead and cut this up like this. And then we'll continue with the dicing. Okay, so here we have the tomato. It's already been diced. I used a whole tomato. And now we're going to go on to the purple onion. Okay, so we're getting ready to dice our onion. Now, the one thing you also have to keep in mind is that with purple onion, it's actually rather pungent and rather powerful, so I use very little, maybe about just that much. And of course, don't forget to peel off the outer skin and get rid of that before you start dicing, because you really don't want to use that. Okay, so once you have the outer skin peeled, then you can start dicing your onion. Okay, so now we have our onion already diced, and if you'll notice and compare it to the tomato, it's actually quite smaller. And that's important because you don't want the taste of the onion to be overpowering. Okay, so now we're gonna go on to our jalapeno, our fresh jalapeno. And the first thing I always like to do is cut it right down the middle. The one thing you have to keep in mind is some people like to wear gloves when dealing with jalapeno because it does, if you leave it on your hands and you happen to accidentally touch your face, it will sting. Also, the seeds is always a good idea to take out the seeds because the seeds is what actually is going to sting and make it more hot. So if I just want the flavor rather than the spiciness, I try to get rid of all the seeds first before I start dicing. And one last thing to keep in mind, if you have kids or people who do not enjoy spicy stuff, you can always skip this step. So now we go on to our avocado. It's always a good idea to get your knife. I usually have a special tool for cutting avocado, but for right now, I'm just gonna improvise and use my knife. Of course, you go all the way around, and in order to open it, you always have to twist. And of course, it's gonna come out with the seed. And in order to, this is gonna seem violent, but here, this is what I usually do to get it out. Cut it, and then you twist it, and it pops right out. 2 halves of the avocado. And what's a good idea is to do this. While it's still in there, just go ahead and do this. And it'll make it a lot easier once you turn it around to peel it out. And that way it'll come out already partially cut. So if you notice, this time I did the slices and then I did it crosswise to have the little diced already in there. That way once you get the spoon, it already comes out in little squares. And then you can just scoop it out using a spoon. Okay, so here we have our cilantro. It's already been washed and rinsed off. So now we're just going to go ahead and start cutting it into small little pieces here. Okay, so now we've already diced all our ingredients and it's time to put everything together. We have our tomato first, right there. And we have our onion, right there. A little bit of the jalapeno. I don't like to add too much because I don't want mine to be too spicy. And the cilantro, keep in mind that I also added the stems. Some people don't like to keep the stems in there. I do. So I just go ahead and add that. And of course the last ingredient, or second to the last ingredient, is the lime, which I sliced open. And I'm going to add the juice in there. Okay, so now we have all our ingredients here, and we're going to start mixing it all up. And of course, once we do that, and then before we finish, last ingredient is of course to add a little bit of salt. I don't like to add too much because it affects my blood pressure. I know some people have a problem with that. Quick fix on that is add more lemon. And I know that lemon is also dependent on personal taste. Some people like less lemon, some people like more. I personally would prefer the lemon to the salt. It adds more flavor, and at the same time, it does not affect my blood pressure. So now we've got it all mixed in. Doesn't that look good already? And it smells good too. So this is our finished product, and it's already plated and presented right there. It is a really good dish. This is great when you have a barbecue or you have friends or family over. It's really nice, and it's great for dipping like this one. So, delicious. Really good.
For more information, check out our materials and resources at McAllen Public Library.